Good morning, everyone.
Welcome everyone who has joined today for this webinar where Meti will be talking about his view and what is happening in today's scenario and how to thrive and get to success in 2025 and upcoming years. We'll be taking questions in the end and will request you to put that question in the Q&A box right here on your screen, which you'll be able to see below, and then begin. Over to you, Meti.
Thank you so much, Kushbu. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Super glad to be spending the start of the next week with everyone. And I love the fact that I'm already seeing people posting where they are from, and that's usually what the first question I tend to ask. So if you haven't had chance to share with us, I would love to know the city and the country that you're joining with us, and we'll get a start very shortly. But I would love to see the city and the country that you're joining with us in the chat. We have UK, we have Punjab, India, we have Bangladesh, we have Nigeria, Ibadan, we have Nigeria, we have Kurdistan, we have New York, we have Toronto, Gujarat, we have Sri Lanka, we have someone from Kitchener, we have someone from Nigeria, Nepal, Philippines, Pakistan. That's just wonderful. One of the best things in the past decade of my life that I appreciate a lot is just the diversity that our sector has, and very much appreciate. We have people from Norway. It's just phenomenal. So thank you so much for sharing your precious time with us this morning of Canada time, and then your evening perhaps, or your afternoons where you are. I'm gonna give in the next 25 to 30 minutes, I'm gonna share some insight, my perspective where Canada is and so on, and where international students mobility, whether in Canada, US, UK, and so on, is where we think we're heading. But most importantly, how anyone perhaps in a time of challenging time would be able to thrive through that. So let's get started, Kushbu. If we go to the next slide, maybe do one more. Next slide, and one more. Okay. We can skip this one. And for the folks that might not know, I'm gonna give a quick background. Our story of our power really started with me and my brothers that we came to Canada as international student. It might have been just 15 years ago, but we firsthand coming out of the country relatively with a lack of informations and accessibility in a lot of format, coming from that country and coming to this wonderful country that I call home now, taught us a lot, showed us a lot of process, and frankly, it gave us the appreciation of what it really means for students' mobility. And the reason we started our board was really like if we went through that hard process, can we making it easier with support of our partners around the world? That's just for the folks that might not know a story of our board. If we go to the next one thing that I'm sure many of you guys right now in the past, I would say 2 years, we have noticed. So before, let's say back 2019, until 2019, the student mobility, so students going from a point A to point B. So let's say from India to US or from Nigeria to UK and so on. The market was growing globally about 7 to 8% year over year. What does that mean? Means usually from any country, 7, 8% more students were going abroad compared to previous year. And that number, historically, when you look at the past 3 to 4 decades, the 7, 8% has been very consistent. And that consistently allowed a lot of the host destination to welcome more of those students. On the other side, a lot of destination that were sending students going abroad would be able to support those students. But what really happened, which is ironically, this is 5 years ago, but COVID happened. And it created the deep in terms of the students. So all of a sudden, for 12 to 24 months, depends some countries, no one could have traveled, or some destination like Australia, the borders were closed for so long. So it created a significant drop where not many people anticipated that there will be bring a significant kind of the pandemic demand post-pandemic. And I think what that happened was, so that 2 years of students that couldn't go abroad, that 2 years really happened in the end of 2022, 2023, early 2024. So a lot of major host countries, UK, Australia, and Canada, in that sense, had too many students coming to their country at once. So that 8 to 7% CAGR of growth that historically we saw all of a sudden became 25%, 50%. And that, of course, brought its own challenges, both for students that were choosing those countries, but also the destination. And 2024, many destination countries came with not relatively friendly policies around international students to balance that. And now we have seen the countries are balanced that, and the numbers is where it was 2019. Why did I give that background? Because it's sometimes very easy to forget or very easy to ignore what past was. You may have just started your business, you may have been in the market for 20 years, so you have seen a lot of up and down. But it is important to say the market is not where it was in 2010. We are actually, when you really look at it, there was a pandemic, there was a post-pandemic. The market is where it was in 2019, and now we're anticipating 7-8% global mobility to increase. So we're just back to pre-pandemic. Yes, this past 2 years for most of the folks has maybe been challenging time, but it has also brought its own opportunity. So I just wanted to give that perspective because it's sometimes very easy to forget what it used to be and what it is now. And I want to make sure people know. We remain incredibly optimistic for students' mobility to continue growing because we just don't look at 2024. We don't look at 2025. We look at 50 years ago. My dad went to United States and studied his undergrad in United States 57 years ago. So when you look at the students' mobility in a decade time, in a 10 years horizon, the students' mobility has constantly grown. If we want to just look at 2024 and 2024, 5, of course, it has its own challenges. And if you go to the next slide, so couple of stuff that we know and based on the research that we have done, based on the searches of our platform, the three thing that remains more dominant today, and of course with the word of AI, that every day something new is coming and something is changing around us, I think some of these are going to become far more important. One is affordability of that. And that's why within our platform, we have done so much to provide a scholarship opportunity for your students, providing loan opportunity for your students, and so on. Second piece is targeting programs that they're like more of master programs, 20 programs that they're more in destination choices of Canada, UK, US, or Australia, and so on. And of course, some new destination. But the last piece, which is to my point of view, I think it becomes the number one most important thing for any students going abroad is a career outcome. And why would I spend a minute to talk about that? Any students making 30, 40, $50,000 average investment going abroad, of course, as a as person that I came to Canada and study, I firsthand remember it. The experience that a student's mobility teaches you is just phenomenal. You learn so much as international students. Put that on the side, but like many domestic students, international students asking themselves one question: how is this going to change my career outcome? Two, what does the career outcome look like in my home country or the destination? So we really need to be more mindful of number three, specifically in the past 12 to 18 months, we saw how much AI is changing jobs, how much AI is actually removing a lot of jobs, and how much new jobs being created. So I think this is important for everyone to focus and spend tons of time familiarizing yourself on how you would be able to support a student to choose what's best. Because 10 years from now, the workforce is going to be very different. And of course, in our Cloudboard, we have provided you those opportunities that you would see what are the programs that the outcome of that has a high job priorities and vice versa. If we go to the next slide, I want to spend very lightly, that's not my intention to spend, where is Canada, where is UK, and perhaps where is US? And then I want to share a couple of my personal stories in the past 18 months and so on. So of course, Canada, again, as I explained, 2020, 2021, the country was mainly closed. 2022, 2023, Canada received a significant number of students, and that was just too much for both the students and Canada. And Canada was like, let's take a step back. We want to make sure the students coming to our countries are becoming successful. We want to make sure we can house everyone, we can support everyone, and most importantly, we can support our Canadian domestic. So some policy was done, and those policies, we could argue, changed how Canada was perceived as that. But that does not necessarily make Canada as a closed market. There is this a lot of perception. I've chatted with more than hundreds of our partners. I've chatted with 1,000+ students myself in the past 12 months. There's this perception Canada being closed. Canada is not closed. We just adjusted the number that we can set every year to make sure countries are successful. Most importantly, students are being successful. And still, when you really think of it, Canada is where it was 2017-18, despite the fact this was one of the hardest years. But it's so important for everyone to know, Canada did not close its door. Canada is still one of the most immigrant-friendly country. We still have a significant opportunity for international students to come here. So I think that message that Canada remains open, but arguably puts students with a better success. Remember, I said the number 3 is one of the most important things, career outcome. Now, students coming to Canada, the government's clearly listing them. What are the programs that you better to study because there is a likelihood of job for you. So even Canada's government recognized that career outcome becoming far more important. And as a result of that importance, let's just make sure the students coming to our country, they can study programs that they can be more successful if they decide to stay in Canada. So I think like this is very important. I anticipate in the next 10 years or so, not 2025 alone, we're gonna come back and we're gonna see Canada's growing 7 to 10% year over year. So there is a still significant opportunity. If we move on to UK, sorry, US, UK. UK, the market has been relatively stable, and the market had a slight changes in 2024 because of some policy changes that has been introduced. Q1, this is a Q1 data, number of UK students that got their visa. As you can see, the number has been relatively strong, and then the numbers continue to be. Having said that, we all know that UK is planning to make a small amount of changes in their policy in the next few months. And as a result of those policy changes, we may see some of this number change. But again, the most important thing, if you're a good student, you're genuine and you're planning to go study abroad for a better life, and you can certainly follow through the entire process, there are so many opportunities. There's literally more than 1 million opportunity for one student to go abroad. We just need to make sure those students are the right students that we can support them. And of course, the market has changed, but I, again, gotta emphasize on it. In the next decade, if you look at, let's say, the chart is 300,000 students, the next decade, that 300,000 students is going to become a 500,000. So we are all in the serving of the students. What makes me get up in the morning and be so excited, beside spending a wonderful time with everyone in this webinar, is actually knowing that at the end, we're making someone's life better. Knowing that at the end, we can impact someone's life throughout their journey, whether they stay in the country that they're studying or whether they're going back home based on the following the process. I know that makes their life better, because my life truly changed through that experience. I think that's the most important. Sometimes it's not just how many number of students we change life, it's a matter of how are we changing life? Can we make sure the quality of that life change continue to exist? If we go to the next slide, which is UK, this is our Harvard searches, US, sorry, this is for US Harvard searches. We remain actually seeing US continue growing in terms of the searches within our platform. Yes, there has been challenges in US in the past few months, but incredibly still optimistic. US has a significant opportunity for many students. What US offers, whether that's in the very highest skilled jobs or programs or institution, is something that many other countries can compete with. So there has been challenges in every single of these countries that I mentioned, but if we only look at it in 2025 lens, say if you go back to 2020, this is March, most of the countries that start locking down, we thought our sector is going to be end. Like the entire our sector is from students going from one destination to another destination. And what happened was the students can't travel. So what do? We pivoted, we adapted, we put the students first. If the students want to go abroad, can they study online and so on? By putting the students at heart of everything we do, not only we went through pandemic, but also we had a very successful 2 or 3 years because those students that couldn't travel, now all of a sudden they travel. This is exactly another opportunity for everyone as the market in the past 18 months has evolved, and I truly think it's evolved something better for the future of the student, it brings a new opportunity with it. The only thing that I don't want anyone underestimate, the AI is going to change jobs, and AI is going to replace a lot of jobs, and it's going to create a lot of jobs. We as the people that support those students, whether at our platform, we try to do that through our technology and the platform, whether you, it is important to we catch up with that changes, because we want to make sure the students, let's say coming from Abuja, Nigeria, coming to UK, study there, going back home, has that type of skill that can make a significant impact in their home countries, but also can be driven off those technology. If we go to the next slide. So in the past few months, I earlier mentioned, if you go to the next slide, I've spent a lot of time, I talk to a lot of people and say, hey, what's the market changing? Europe, of course, as a part of destination is becoming, Europe genuinely to be more affordable just because it has more opportunity for students to study in the lower program, whether that's Germany or Ireland. Ireland has a tons of opportunity, whether it's a pharmaceutical company or tech companies. And I think it is important, and this is what I'm going to challenge everyone. If you're in the help of a student's recruitment, just go learn about one country that is not your cup of tea. If you have been significantly focusing on a health programs going to, let's say, UK or Canada as example, you're now just go learn about another European countries. Of course, our Flyward has Ireland and Germany as our part of platform. It's not necessarily about so many students are going there. Yes, that's the case, but it's also challenging yourself that you're gonna be beyond. I personally think students' mobility is gonna be very global. You're gonna see countries, if we go to the next slide, I actually spent the time to explain that. On one side of, think of our sector in the one of the best sector that you change life, but now for a second, step back and look at it as a supply and demand. You have on one side of the world that the population is aging. What do I mean by that? Let's do Canada. Canada, by the end of this decade, so the next 5 years, 1 out of 4 people living in Canada are age of 65 plus. Okay, let me repeat that. 1 out of 4 people that lives in Canada by the end of this year, a decade, 5 years from now, is going to be age of 65 plus. Let's now go all the way to Nigeria. By the end of this decade, only 7% of people living in Nigeria are age of 65 plus. So what does that mean to you? You have one country that the population is aging, demographic becomes older, so the young generation is missing, there is less domestic students going to the classroom, And all of a sudden you have other countries like Nigeria, which is wonderful, and the young generation are growing, and there is less of opportunity for them there and less of education accessibility going. So that's so important. Korea is in that case. Japan is in that case. Europe is in that case. US in that. All this developed country, China, Europe, and so on, are now having a aging population, which means less students going to the classroom. And then you have on the other side, developing countries that the population is growing. There is a newer generation that comes. So that's the demand and that supply. And what I'm trying to do, if you look at this chart, there is so many millions of students that don't have that access of that quality of education. And there is millions of available seats that the students can go on and study. If you think of this truly at the macro, at the global world, not just from sitting from Delhi to Toronto, you're thinking of it as a one student sitting in my country, and the one students can have opportunities to go to hundreds. That global trend is going to grow. And that's why when I'm saying I'm optimistic that 10 years from now, we're going to look back as we looking back in COVID, say, you know what, COVID brought a lot of opportunity. We're going to say the same thing today. Why did I challenge every single of you folks? Go learn Ireland, go learn Germany, go learn Japan, go learn Korea. Because let me tell you one thing, and this is my forecast, that 10 years from now, students are not going to choose Canada, UK, US alone. They will demand how they're going to go to Korea. They will demand Germany. They will demand Ireland. And you're going to see a much more global. You're not going to see one country hosting 10% of a student's mobility. You're going to see 20, 30 countries going. So you have to put technology at the heart of everything, because your counselors, your team, yourself cannot memorize 20 different destinations. You have to enable your students to utilize technology and AI, else you will be irrelevant to that. As students can find those information much faster today than they were doing it before. So incredibly important when you look at it, this sector, look at it at a very big lens and look at it at a global lens, and that there is so much opportunities ahead. We go to the next slide. I have a story to share. I'm sure some of you guys say, why Mehdi is showing us a tree? No, stay here, Kashfu. Mehdi is showing us three picture. It's a little lake. And why do Mehdi is showing us? I'll tell you guys a story. For my Canadian folks on the call, this is Tobermory, Pod Island. It's one of my favorite spots to go. For folks that may not know, it's a beautiful 3 hours to drive to Toronto. There is this place called Tobermory. So not a while back, a couple of weeks ago, I visited again. It's one of my favorite destinations to visit in Ontario. And we were on a touring boat, and we were going from Tobermory to a little island, which is like 15-minute boat ride. And then the person that was touring, there's this gentleman says, some of these trees that you see in the pictures are 1,600 years old. So some of these trees in these pictures are over 1,000 years old. I personally was shocked, right? Like 1,000 trees old, why are they so small? Like I thought the 1,003 years old should be like this thick, should be so tall. Why are they so small? So that was the question that I was keep asking. I'm like, I can't believe any of these trees to be 1,000+ years old. But their answer was because these trees has grown in rocks. It's been protected. One side of it is by the water. And if you can see, the trees are in the side of the hill. This side is the water. And then this side is the hill that like this grown in the mountains and the hard rocks, that actually has resulted these trees to survive from wildfires. So what I'm trying to say, what meant to be the hardest place for any tree to grow has resulted, that resilience has resulted that tree to put the maximum impact in this wonderful planet Earth, because it's lasted 1,600 years old, has lasted over 1,000. So from afar, if you really look at it, resilience is what matters. Sometimes the hard atmospheres are best atmosphere for the best people and the most successful people to come out of it. And despite the fact that when you look at it, they look at 10 years, our sector is going to be incredibly well. But this is the time that resilience, putting the right thing, putting the students at the heart of everything, utilizing technology. As long as we do the right thing, not only we can extremely grow through this market, but also 5 years from now, we can be incredibly successful in a lot of things that we do. But we all have to utilize this opportunity. Think of this picture as a tree as a tree in the middle of rocks, and think of yourself that how are you making sure that from the next wave of challenges you're secure? How are you making sure this is the opportunity to utilize technology, AI, to make your students more successful? And that's how you would be able to be incredibly successful 50 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, because the sector is going to grow. The students is still going to go abroad. In fact, less than 2% of a student today in higher education classroom has an opportunity to go abroad. 2%. So less than 2% of the students can go study abroad compared to the students that they're in the classroom of higher education. So you could argue there's 98 other students that have the opportunity to go to Japan, to Korea, to Germany, to Ireland, to Canada, and so on, that they don't have the opportunity. How we all can support that this becomes an incredible opportunity for everyone. And the last piece of things that I'm going to share. So this is what I have heard from everyone in the past few months. I've chatted with tons of our partners, students, and our team, and so on. The number one thing that I'm constantly hearing becomes more important and more important. The speed, the transparency of the information, the ease of the access of information, all are those that everyone is asking. And I can guarantee you guys that our Power is making a significant investment, as we always have done, to make sure we have a best platform, best technology that can truly support your students and you throughout that journey. And the reason I'm keep emphasizing on that, when the job market is changing, you sit back and you learn your skill. When changes happening and some students' questions becoming different, because now everyone can go start talking to ChatGPT and get so many advice from ChatGPT, which could be some of the most accurate advices. The access becomes more easy. You as a partner, you're someone that supports the students, need to make yourself more relevant. And you only can do that by access, by providing information which is up to date, by providing information that is such a fasty. So take the speed, the support, the technology, that's what matters mostly when it comes to a lot of student advising. And that's what our Board is trying significantly to do, putting you guys at that forefront of technology. My humble request from everyone: don't choose a short gain over the long term. If you remember that trees, 1600 years old trees, is incredibly important to utilize technology, AI, because it's changing very fast. Every day I'm spending half an hour to learn something new that I don't know, because I feel like the world is changing. Make sure you're very well equipped with that, because like tomorrow applying to X university on one platform, your students not going to only come and apply to Canada. They may want to apply to 10 different countries. So utilizing technology and putting what's important has become far more important. This is what I have heard from you guys. This is where our Board investing tons of its resources. And I want to emphasize on that significantly. And the last piece that I'm going to go, if we go to the last slide, and I'm going to open it to questions. Actually, before I humbly ask people to reach out to me if you have any feedback, the most important things, every single challenges brings opportunity. Every single evolutions of the world that we have gone through has made the humanity better. And I genuinely mean that. as excited I get when I utilize a technologies like so many great platform right now that has changed so many things that we do daily because of the AI in the last 2 years. I get excited. Yes, it's gonna challenge a lot of jobs, but I get excited because I know next 20 years kids or the kid that is going to high school gonna have a better technology to use, gonna have a better life for themselves. Any challenges bring opportunity. Where I stand today, I'm like, okay, challenges has raised in our business, in our sector. Canada is not where it used to be, US is not where it used to be. But the other side, I get excited because I know that will open so many other doors as long as we do the right thing, as long as we remain resilient, as long as we put the most important things at the heart of everything we do, which is student success, student outcome. As long as we focus on that, everything else will pan out. I hope that you guys get a little perspective. I genuinely think we should all look at this 10 years from now, not just 2025, July 21st. If as long as we plan for 10 years from now, let me tell you, the industry is 2 times bigger. If today there is a 6.5 million students going abroad, 10 years from now, there will be about 12, 13, 14 million students going abroad. We just have to focus on 10 years ahead and have a resilience in what we do and put the students at the heart of everything that we do. Last thing is my email, guys, is pretty much a straightforward, meti@applauber.com. So I would love to hear from your feedback. If you have a technology feedback, you have a service feedback, anything, like I'm always there to support you guys. Like my humble request is do reach out when you think we can all become better together. Because at the end of it, me and my brothers started this company with one and only one purpose: to support as many students that we can change their life with. We have been privileged enough in the past decade with your support, with our amazing partner institution support, to help over 1+ million students' life. But I'm only looking at the next 10 years, how we would be able to change 1 million students' life every year, not in a decade. So I'm grateful for every single of you guys to spend time this morning and or your afternoon. I'm gonna open it up to question. If you do have any question, use the Q&A features and please do share those questions. Better to be in the Q&A feature so I can just look through it and go through it. And I do appreciate you guys spending time with me. Kush, if you don't mind, you can stop perhaps sharing the screen and then I can go to the Q&A. So the first question is, so it's about more European countries. We do have Ireland and Germany currently on the platform. We are working on few other destinations. But here's what I want to make sure that it's not about, again, quantity here. It's not about let's have 25 destination. Let's get one contract or one partners in Singapore, we launch Singapore. Let's put one partner in Korea and we launch. That's historically how many of our other peers in the sector has now. We want to make sure if we launch Germany, we can make sure your students be successful. If we launch Ireland, we make sure your students going to be successful. So stay tuned. We're going to have more destination in the next 18 months or so, but we already have 6 a strong destination that we want to make sure your students get to be successful throughout that 6 destination and so on. There are questions whether we work with this institution or not. The simplest answer is go to our platform, search. You don't even need to be logged in and you can search that institution and see if this institution is on platform or not. Every day we're adding new institution on the platform, so it's important to have those information, check it in the website. Next question, which is a great question. It says, what can we do to increase the student enrollment? It's a very good question. I will answer that with this. Just put the right thing at first. Is your team equipped to use the best technology? And you guys truly know, if right now I walk to your office and say, hey, AI is changing a lot of jobs, what should I study? Do you know the answer to that question? And if you don't know that answer to question, there you go. That's the first thing. How do you make sure that knowledge is that? The question the students are asking is different. And are you equipped? Because I can guarantee you guys, 2 years, 1 year from now, there will be another panda demands that's gonna come like this, because a lot of the countries gonna start taking a lot more student. Are you ready for those questions? Because the questions that the students are asking today is different. That is why we at Apply Board, we believe to make sure we invest enough in technology to equip you, so you focus on what's matter more, which is that is students counseling, a student support, rather than the technology. We're good on tech. We can support you through that tech. You could support incredibly well on a student. So the short answer, make sure you put the students at heart of everything that you do. Second thing, you make sure that you have answers the question. And the question the student's gonna ask, I can tell you day and night will be different than what they have asked 2 years ago. Can I give my email address? meti@applyboard.com. That's my email. So as long as you know my first name, just put @applyboard.com. That's email that comes to me. So please do reach out if you do have any feedback or something that I can be help and support. It's a great question. It says, looking at the scenario, should we charge the students or not? I would say I'm biased with time answering this question, because I personally think you should never charge a student. I think you should remember why we do what we do, which is in changing of life and supporting that. I think affordability is a very important piece of the student journey. So if you can be more affordable for students is what matters the more. And that's unique prop for you. Like, you get the students come say, hey, I want to go to X country. As long as you can support them, you work with that Harvard, you will be compensated for your hard work. Can you make the journey simpler for students? And I can tell you guys one thing, students becoming far smarter because access of information is changing. A lot of students may not need the help that they needed 10 years ago, 20 years ago. So it is important to focus on your value prop and changing that. So that's my answer to that question. Okay, it's a great question. It says most of our students that's right now asking for UK, like, how will you go about that question when one destination become hub? I guess that's a great question. It says we tend to follow the trend. We don't create the trend. When a student walks to your campus, they say, I want to go to our office and says, I want to go to UK. UK is an incredible opportunity. You should sit back, tell the students, what is your goal? What do you want to achieve in life? What is your plan after graduation? Are you planning to work there? Are you planning to come back? You really need to go deeper with student journey, because you know what? I'm a student, my cousin, my friend, my neighbor just got visa to US. I want to go to US, or just got visa to UK. It changes our plan much more. Your job is to spend more time to truly understand what is it that the student is aiming to achieve. Because if you do that and you make sure the students becoming more successful, then you have a better opportunity for you and the students. Like, if the students ask for UK, ask them why. Is it just because your neighbor is going to UK? Is it your cousin's going to UK? Maybe it's still US is your best option. Maybe it's Canada is your best option. Maybe it's Germany, Ireland, Japan. I just challenge everyone. Please don't just spend 2 minutes more with the students. Don't do a transaction work. And I think that's where we can all succeed if we put the students first. Question about, do we facilitate the loan? We don't. If you go to our Apply Board search, we do work with a number of partners that have told us what programs of Apply Board they're willing to offer loan. So it calls loan offer. If you click on that, you would be able to see the programs that there are banks that will be able to provide loans to your students. We don't facilitate loan ourselves, but we do work with banks, other partners that do support a student, and you certainly can help. The next question is about loan. Same, I answered that question, and please do check out. One thing that I'm gonna say, we investing so many resource effort in our technology. So if any of you guys have not logged into our platform past month, my challenge is to you log in, play around. This is your time to teach yourself. We all are a student ourselves too. I'm a student, you're a student. And the more we spend time to learn about our skills, increase our skill, learn technology to do our job, learn new technology to make our job easier. That's the importance of it. I think like I challenge everyone to make sure you spend enough time because our Cloudboard portal is also changing. We utilizing AI as many other tech companies far more, and so many of our new product is so much incredibly powerful. It can make your job so much easier. Next question is like about IRCC and changes of IRCC in Canada. And that's guys, and Saurabh is asking that question. There has been changes, but the quality of a student has not changed. See, for example, for the folks that may be a little bit more clear with Canada, STS was removed. And a lot of folks messaged me to say, do you think we should still pay 1 year tuition fee or not? Because part of STS, historically, you had to pay 1 year tuition fee. And my answer was like, absolutely. Like, but a lot of people says this is great because now we can get a student acceptance there and not necessarily make the whole 1 year tuition fee anymore because government does not require it. I said, that's not the right way to look at it. They removed the STS to make it more equitable for everyone, but you still follow the same process. Government, any country want to grant someone visa, what are they really looking? Can the students afford their education? Is the student genuine student? So they know why the program, why that institution, why they're going abroad, what is their goal? Is the students planning to, what is their long-term plan? Is stay? If so, what their research they have done, or they going back home? And the last thing is this person's security risk for our country or not? It is very simple. How can you provide that information to officer that the students can afford their education, the student has done their research, and the student has a good long-term plan and so on? And of course, the risk factor, it's something that government's going to do. If you're not paying the tuition fee for your school, if you're not providing enough of financial support, of course, IRCC or UK visa and UKVI and so on will have been that challenge. So I think of it that through that four lens, how you would be able to support your student. There's a lot of question. When Apple will launch China, when Apple will launch Malta, I already answered those questions, and I want to make sure that don't repeat the same thing. So there was a pattern. The students had over. I answered that question, so I think as long as you focus on those, should be fine. A good question. So I'm gonna say, do you think we're not seeing a structural change for students' mobility given the policy changes and political decision that has happened in the country? It doesn't like it seems like that there is a changes there. Okay, go back, guys. Let's fast forward. Canada, US, Korea, UK, Europe all have one problem in common, which is population. We all having less young people in our classroom. You know how a country can grow its GDP? By more people to be in workforce. You know what happens when a country like Canada, 1 out of 4 will be age of over 65? Means 1 out of 4 people in your society are not contributing to economy as much as someone that is 20 years old. They do the contribution, but they do differently. They're not gonna go work, pay taxes and so on. They spend the money that they have earned and worked in the past 20, 30, 40 years of their life. But the person that's at the age of 30 work, pay taxes. So countries all have this problem in common. The fertility rate is coming down, less populations are in the younger categories of that. So despite the changes we see, the political avenue and so on, that problem's not going to be solved. And a lot of great countries like Canada, Australia, UK, US, Germany, all have recognized it's better to bring a student in your country, that they take your education system. And if they are the best of the best, how can you maintain it and keep them in your country? That's not going to change. The number may change. The number, whether it's 200,000, 100,000, that may change. But the fact, one thing is not going to change. If the student is the greatest student, has an opportunity to impact in the host country, have so much opportunity. That has not changed. So I don't think the student mobility has changed forever. I truly think 10 years from now, the numbers of the students going abroad and have accessibility is going to be 2 times more than what it is today. I think destinations they're going is going to be different. And I think the demand's going to be very different. I think every single student is going to be more ROI, return on their investment. Why am I studying in X university in this country? It's going to be a question that you all should be able to answer. If not, you're going to struggle to support that student. And I think that's where I would say maybe the biggest shift it happened, which is not due to the policy changes, is to the fact that if were a wonderful graphic designer, now you can be 5 times more efficient with AI. So should you study graphic design or no? Should you become a content writer or no? That's the question you need to be able to answer the students. I think that's where it changed fundamentally. How do I envision future of international education? I just answered that. Guys, one thing that I say, every decade, doesn't matter, in the last 50 years, every single decade, the total number of students going abroad has been doubled. If we were sitting here, this was in early 2000, there were less than 1.5 million students going abroad. 1.5. It's not even like what number Canada, UK, US, all 4 countries host every year now. Every decade, the total number of students going abroad has been doubled. So if we sitting here and this is like 235, 10 years from now, I can certainly tell you we're gonna have over 12, 13 million students going abroad, if not far more. It could significantly go higher because new destinations becoming a host of international students. Let me see if there are any questions in the chat. Can we expect better visa approval for Canada? We already have checked IRCC data. Visa approval month over month is increasing. So a month of May and April had the highest visa approval in the past 6-7 months. So the answer is yes. I think it's already happening. And that's what I say, guys, like your job is to make sure to support a student throughout that journey. And I don't wait for someone else to control your destiny. There is an incredible opportunity in any countries right now for students, and you just need to make sure you would be able to support. Does Apply Board loan support a student who did not apply for through Apply Board? Yes, you can apply. Any of our 360 solution, whether it's test, accommodation, loan, banking, is available for any of your students. So please do check that out. There is some question about some part of the features of the company. This I'm not gonna answer it. Please do reach out to me if you have that questions that is not being answered. I can put you in touch with the right person. Saurabh is asking about the financial changes. It's the simplest answer to that question, Saurabh. How can you satisfy an officer that the students can support their financial? The new financial annual requirement is about 22,000. So you have to be able to show $22,000. It's what you have in the bank account if you're studying for 1 year. If I was today a student and I wanted to go abroad and I was sitting, let's say, in a wonderful countries like India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, or any country, if the students can pay 1 year of their tuition fee and can show 2 to 3 years of their the cost of living, they certainly can satisfy the officers that they have financial. But if you're a student is paying $2,000 deposit to a school and they have $40,000 in their bank account, they're most likely not going to be able to satisfy the officers that they have enough money to support themselves. that simple. Think of 2 or 3 years cost of living plus the first year's tuition fee. And we do see that at Board in Canada, we still have a visa approval of 70-80% with the support of your help. It's very easy. The students are paying their tuition fees are getting higher approval rate that the students are not paying their tuition fees. Because when this money sits in Canadian bank, is that the other thing, Saurabh, if for example, you're in India as example, you still can apply for GIC. Yes, government ended STS, but they didn't end GIC. So you still can put $20,000 in GIC, RBC, TD, BMO, and so on, and show that $20,000 to government. And that's where I think that there's this misperception. Pay your first year fee, put $20,000 in GIC, the money sits in Canada, so government feels far more comfortable, and then show properties and so on. It's much easier. Go back to STS requirement. How was it that you were satisfying offices that the students can pay? The last question, perhaps I answer and I close it up. It says, what marketing strategy do you, the last two more questions, because I like it, both of it. What marketing strategy do I recommend? The simplest format, guys, the word is changing. Value prop, value prop, value prop. Your most important thing is when the students come into your office, what is your biggest differentiation than 100 other people around you? It's not which institution do you have a direct contract or not. This is the false hope that we give ourselves. The most things that this, are you the best at advising me to choose my career post-graduation? Are you the best at advising me which institution should I go? Are you best at advising me because you're the most transparent one? I get access to my journey, you're not hiding anything. What is your value prop? The biggest thing you need to focus on that be good on one thing. Don't be good at everything. We have the tendency that we want to do everything and we want to do everything okay. Do one thing and do it very well. That's the most. At our Board, what we want to do very well is our technology. We want to be the best in terms of our technology. We want to be the best platform that can be provided. We don't want to be best in everything. Because if we want to be best in everything, we would be good on everything. We want to be best in one thing and good on everything else. That's why that. The last question that I'm going to answer and close it, what do I think is the futures of business programs in the future? I actually think I study business. So I think business program as a whole going to teach you a lot more entrepreneurships and so on. So I think the futures of business programs going to be there. What I can tell you, programs that requires social skills, program that requires more hands-on, it's gonna remain strong. Programs that require less of hands-on and social skill and requires more of, it's just a skill that you learn, could be more challenged. As example, computer science used to be one of the most secure job. Now AI can write you code, but you know what AI can't do? If you're a good student, you have graduated a still good computer science, and you have a common sense of skills, and you gain those experience, you have an opportunity to make AI, and you become 10 times more productive. AI is gonna make us far more productive. It's gonna replace 10 to 20% of the jobs in the next 5 to 10 years. But there is still 80% of the jobs that's going to be very much more productive through the lens of AI. And the last thing that I want to leave everyone, I'm grateful for taking time and be with me this morning of my time, your evening and your afternoon. My humble request from everyone, don't forget my 3 story, the resilience and putting the right thing at the heart of everything, which is the student success, is what's going to support us. And think of 10 years from now when we are talking together and we supporting our students, we're all going to look back and say, yes, you know what, the sector dabbled and there are more students than now we have to support and serve. That's about it from my end. Do reach out if you do have more question or feedback. I'm grateful to every single of you guys, and thanks for always supporting our platform. Thank you.
Thank you, Mehdi. Thank you so much for those great insights and answering all the questions with so much of patience. And it was really helpful I'm sure to everyone who works in the studies abroad industry. And all of you, thank you so much for taking out time and joining and making this session so interactive. And we'll also be sending out an email across to all of you with the recording of this webinar. And so you can again go through everything you missed, or if you want to go through again anything which you might not have heard as clearly and carefully during the session. See you next time.